Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to be showing you how to integrate Player Farming System into Player Building System v2. So to get started, head over to your Player Farming System project and right click the Player Farming System folder and hit Migrate, then hit OK. Then navigate to your Player Building System v2 folder, so for me that's on my desktop, then find the Content folder and hit Select Folder, then just give it a second to move the files over. Next, head back to your Player Building System v2 project. Once we're in here, you should see the Player Farming System folder in your main content folder. Then we're going to head to Edit, Project Settings, and then to the Collision tab here. We're going to create a new object channel. This is going to be called Placement with a capital P. Then hit Accept. Then we're going to add a new Trace channel. This is going to be called Light with a capital L. Hit Accept. Then we're going to create another new channel called Preview and hit Accept. Then we're just going to hide these two categories and open up the preset category, click new, and we're going to create a new category called Placement Preview. We're going to set this to be query only. Then we're going to set it to World Dynamic. Tick Ignore at the top here. Then scrolling down, we're going to set overlap to all of these options down here, apart from placement, which we want to block. Then hit Accept. Then click the new button again and name this one Plant. Set its collision enabled to collision enabled and set its object type to world dynamic. Then we're going to tick the ignore here at the top. Then we want to block visibility. We also want to block the interaction. Then scrolling down, block world static and world dynamic. Then we want to block the destruction and the build part and also placement. Then hit accept. Lastly, we'll create another new preset and this is going to be called Destroyed Plant, and we want to set this to be collision enabled. We want it to be world dynamic. Then we're going to tick ignore at the top here. Then we're just going to set it to block world static and world dynamic. Then hit accept. Next, we're going to double click on the build preview here and make sure it's set to ignore both the light and preview options and hit accept. Then we're going to double click the pawn option here and again making sure we ignore both the light and preview settings. Then hit accept. And then double click character mesh and make sure that also ignores both light and preview. And then the same thing with the trigger, make sure that ignores both preview and the light options here and then hit accept. Next we're going to go to the content browser and we're going to search for the PBS game mode. Open that up. This might take a second to load. And I'll just bring that over from my other screen. And then here we're going to add a new component that we're going to search for farming. And we want the farming game mode component, then compile. Then we're going to go to class settings. Then in the interfaces tab here, you will either have an add button here or an add button here. Click whichever one you have. Click add, then search for farming. And we want the farming game mode interface. Then compile. Next, we're going to go back to the content browser and we're going to search for the farming game mode and open that up. In here, we're going to go to the event graph and we're just going to copy these nodes, go back to our PBS game mode, go to the event graph and paste those nodes in. Then open the interfaces up. We're going to disconnect this from here and delete this node. Drag out from save system, do promote to variable. We're going to call this farming save system, like that, and then compile. Then go down to the interfaces tab here, then game mode, then start with saving, open up the get save system function, and in here we're going to get that new variable we just created and plug it into the return node. Then we're going to go to the lights, get directional lights, grab the farming game mode component from the components panel, drag out and search for get directional lights and plug that in here. Then we'll just copy this node because we're going to reuse it, go to night, then get is night, paste that in, drag out and search for is night and do get is night, plug that in here. Then going to the rain category, get is raining, again paste in the node and do get is raining. We'll get that variable, plug it in here, drag out and do get rain amount and plug that in here. Then we'll open up the components category and we'll just paste in that node again and then plug that into the return value like that, then just compile. Next, we're going to go to the content browser and search for the PBS controller. Open that up. Then we're going to add a new component. We're going to search for player farming and add the player farming component and then compile. Then we're going to go back to the content browser and search for the farming controller. Open that up. And in here, we're just going to copy these nodes and then go to our PBS controller. And in the event graph, we're just going to paste these in, then compile. Then we're going to go back to the content browser and we're going to search for the player building component. And that one is here. We'll open that up. Then we're going to search for the server initialize events. Open that up. Then we're going to drag out from the controller class node here and search for get component by class. Then drag out from, select the component class. We're going to search for the player farming and we want the player farming component. Then drag out from the return node, do promote to variable. We're going to call this farming component and then connect this up to our owning character node here and then compile. Then we're going to search for client initialize events, and here we're going to right click and do get owner, drag out from that and do get component by class, set the component class to player farming component, player farming component, then drag out from the return value and do set farming component, then connect this up to the end like that, then compile. Next, we're going to go back to the content browser and we're going to search for e_build type. Open this up and we're going to create a new enumerator and this is going to be called farming. Then save this, and I recommend just playing in editor. This will compile some of our blueprints for us. Once it's loaded, I'm just going to exit out. You will have some errors, but that's fine. We'll fix these in a moment. You can close that. Then we're going to head back to our player building component and then we're going to search for the input. Open that up, and in here we're going to do get build part type, drag out from that and search for 2 equals nodes and use the top node here and set this to farming, then drag out and do a branch node, and we want this plugged into the build option from this switch node, then from false plug into is placement enabled, and we'll just move this out of the way so we've got a bit more space. Then we're going to do server set build part, plug this into true, drag out from the build part row name and search for get build part row name. Then we're going to get the farming component, drag out from that and do client place and connect this up to the server set build part like that. Then compile. Next, I'm just going to copy this farming component variable so we can use it again. Then I'm going to search for select build mode and open up the select build mode function. I'm going to paste that in here, drag out and search for exit placement mode. And we're going to connect that up to here and up to here and up to here like that. Then compile. Next, we're going to search for select build part and open up that function. And in here, we're just going to disconnect these nodes from this point. I'm just going to select all of these nodes here. I'm just going to move these down a little bit. Then we'll start by right-clicking here and search for get item row name. Drag out from that and search for build part details. Then from the build part details, drag out and search or select break. Then click the down arrow, drag out from type and search for 2 equals and use the top option. Set this to farming. I'm just going to click this arrow to make this smaller. Then drag out from the equals node and search for branch. Plug this in up here and then plug the, we'll move this along. We're going to do get farming component. Drag out from that and search for exit placement mode. Plug that in here. Move these up a bit. And then from false on this branch node, we want to run our existing code down here. Then we're going to copy these nodes and paste them over here. We're going to click the down arrow. We're going to drag out from blueprint class and do cast to master farming actor class. Connect this up to true. I'm just going to click the arrow on this branch, on this break node just to make it smaller. Then I'm going to drag out from our cast node here and search for get class defaults. Then drag out from farming details, create a break node. Then we're going to right click and do get farming component. Drag out from that and call client select placement actor. Connect this up to our cast node and the row name into row name like that. So once you're finished, it should look like this. You can pause the video if you need to see any part of it, then just compile. Next, we're going to go back to the content browser and we're going to search for the master build part. Open up the master build part. Then we're going to go to we're going to search for the delete build part. We want the delete build part function. In here, we're going to drag out from is not valid and create a branch node. Then from true, we want to connect to multicast destroyed, false into destroy actor. Drag out from condition and promote to variable. We'll call this farming. And we're going to tick instance editable, compile. Then we're going to make sure that this default value is unticked. Then compile and save this. Next, we're going to go to the content browser and we're going to search for master farming actor. Open that up. And in here, we're going to go to class settings and we're going to change the parent class to the master build part and select that. Then compile. Next, we're going to select the static mesh component here and we're going to change this cube mesh. We're just going to clear that. Then we're going to search for tag. We're going to add a new component tag and this is going to be ignore mesh. That's with a capital I, capital M, no space. So it should look like that. Then we're going to copy that, select our arrow mesh here. We're going to add a new component tag to that, and that's also going to be that ignore mesh, so I'll just paste that in there. Then in class defaults, we want to search for farming. We're going to tick farming on. Then we're going to get rid of this search here, and we're going to open up the collision tab here, and we're going to make sure that these are all set to top-down, build part, build part. Then we're going to go to farming settings, find the collision setting in there, and this should be set to light, so we're going to change that to light, and then compile. Next, we're going to go to the event graph, then begin play, and we're going to delete this preview 0, drag out from preview and do set preview. We want the top option here. Then we're going to go to the functions, preview, get preview, and again, delete this variable, drag out from preview and do get preview, and select this top option here, then compile. Now in the variables and do not edit, we can just delete this preview _ 0 and then compile again. Next, we're going to go to the event graph, then to destroyed, and we're going to right click and search for event multicast destroyed. Right click on that and do a add call to parent function. Connect that up here, then drag out from that and call the start destruction mesh timer. I'm going to set the remove time to 5, then drag out and do set lifespan and also set this to 5 like that. And then compile. Next, we're going to go back to the content browser and we're going to search for the player farming component. And that is this one here. Open that up. And we're going to search for the setup references function. Open that up. Drag out from player controller and do get component by class. Set the component class to player building system, or player building component, sorry. Drag out from the return value and do promote to variable. And we're going to call this player building component. And then connect this up to our player controller node here and then compile. Next, we're going to go to the content browser and search for e_character camera type. Open that up, create a new numerator, and we're going to set this to top down, or top space down, and then save this. Then go back to the player farming component and we're going to search for the look at trace. Open that function up. In here, we're going to right click and do get player controller and drag out from return, and we want get hit result under cursor by channel. Drag out from the hit result and do a break hit result. Then click the drop down here. We're going to right click and do get camera type L. Drag out from that and do a select node. Then from the trace end here on our break node, we want to plug this into the top down option. We can make this smaller by clicking the down arrow like that. Then we will drag out from this plus here, plug this into third person and first person. Then plug the return value into the end option here like that. Then over here, we're just going to drag out from get world location and plug this into top down like that. Then compile. Now we're just going to copy these nodes here and we're going to search for placement trace. and open up that function. We're just going to paste these nodes in down here. Like before, we'll connect up this plus node to first person and to third person. Then we'll plug the return value into end. Then over here, we're just going to get the world location and plug that into top down like that. Then compile. Next, we're going to go and search for the get look at hit result. Open that up. In here, we're going to get the player building component, drag out from that and do an is valid. That's wrong, invalid, is valid. There we go. Delete this node. We want to check, is this valid? Then from that, we're going to get the client interact hit result, and we'll return that if is valid. And if not valid, just copy paste the return node and plug that into is not valid, then compile. Next, we're just going to copy this player building component node. Then we're going to search for the place function, and that's here. Open that up. Find the this section, and we're going to paste this in, drag out and search for ownership check. Then we're going to copy paste our new actor L, paste that here, plug that into actor. We're going to plug this option into our set preview here. Then drag out from return node and create a branch. Then we want to get our new actor, just copy paste it again. Then drag out and do add multiple owners. Plug this into true, plug owners into owners, drag out from new actor again and search for add owner. And then plug this into false. Then we're going to copy paste our player building component, drag out from it and do get player name. And plug this into the player name option. Then from both of our nodes down here, we want to connect up to this top node here. So once you're done, it should look like this, then compile. Next, we'll copy the player building component again, and we're going to search for harvest vegetables. Open up that function, paste it in here, drag out and do change resource amounts. And we're going to connect this to loop body, resource to resource, and amount to amount, like that. Then compile. Again, we're going to copy this node. Then we're going to search for check placement cost. Open up that function, paste it in here, drag out and do item cost check. Then we're going to drag out from item found and create a branch. Then we'll drag out from false, do return node, and then we're going to tick on insufficient resources and connect this up to the details over here. Then we'll just copy these two nodes here, then compile. Then we're going to search for deduct placement cost and open up that function, paste those nodes in, connect this up to the details, then make sure you tick on remove items, then compile. Then again, copy the player building component and we're going to search for cost deduction or deduct, open that up. I'm just going to disconnect this node and move it over here so we've got a bit more space. Then we're going to paste in that building component node, drag out and do the change resources amount. Plug this into the cost, drag out from cost and do a break. Not offset, sorry, we want a break. Plug resource into resource, amount into amount, and tick on remove. Then drag out from return value and do a branch. And if true, we're going to return node, like that. Then we can compile. And again, just copy the player building component, and then we're going to search for cost check. Open up that function, and again, just disconnect these nodes, move them up here. Paste in our player building component, drag out and do check resource amount. Drag out from our cost node and create a break. Plug us into resource type and amount into amount. Plug this into our cost node. Then drag out from return value, do a branch. Drag out from true, we want a return node. Then we want to create a new local variable. This is going to be called no resource L. Then we want to set this from false, and we want to set it to true. Then over here on this return node from our loop, we'll drag out and do get no resource L, like that. Once you finish, it should look like this. Then compile. Next, we're going to go to the content browser and we're going to search for the PBS character. Open that up. Then we're going to go to the event graph and then to begin play. Then we're going to right click and do get owner. Drag out from that and do get component by class. Set the class to the player farming component. Drag out from the return value and do promote to variable. We're going to call this player farming component without any spaces, and then connect this up to our player building component node here, then compile. Next, we're going to go to the class settings, and in the interfaces, there will be an add button here or over here. Just click whichever one you have. Click add and search for farming. Farming. And we want the farming character interface. Then compile. Next, we're going to go to interfaces, then character, then camera, then PFS character camera. Open that up. We're going to grab the camera boom, plug that into current spring arm. Then we're going to grab the first person camera, and the third person camera, and just put these over here. Then we're going to go to variables, do not edit, and grab the current camera, just drop that in. Drag out from that and do a select node. Then we're going to plug the return value into current camera. We're going to plug the third person into third person, the first person into first person, and camera into top down. Then we're just going to copy paste this current camera variable and drag out and do another select. Then we're going to plug this into current or camera type. Then we'll leave the first one as first person. We're going to set third person to third person. First person, again, we'll leave as first person. And then top down, we'll set this to top down. So once you're done, it should look a bit like this. Then compile and save this. Next, we're going to go back to the content browser and we're going to search for the farming character. And we'll open that up. And in here, we're going to find the action inputs and we're just going to copy these and go back to our PBS character, go to the event graph, open up the inputs, and we'll paste them in over here, like that, then compile. Now you can change these input nodes to use whatever key you want. I'm going to change mine just to use keys that player building system isn't already using. So for this top one, I'm just going to set it to Y, then the next one I'm going to leave as G, this one's fine as B, this one I'm going to change to H, and then the last one I'm going to change, or it can actually just stay as Z. So those are the key inputs I'm going to use for the different plant actions. You can use your own ones if you want to. Then we're going to compile. Then I'm just going to copy one of these player farming component nodes, and we're going to head over to the rotate input. Just paste that in down here, drag out and search for rotate, preview, and plug this into the rotate build part there, then compile. Next, we're going to go to the content browser and we're going to search for the save system. And we want the save system from the player building system. So just hover over it, you can see the path, it says player building system v2. So we'll open that one up. And we're going to search for load build part. Open up that function. And in here, we want to find this node here. We're going to do get new build part L. Drag out from that and just do a cast to master farming actor. Connect this up to here. Then drag out from cast failed to the set collision node here. I'm just going to move that down out of the way. Then if the cast succeeds, we just run the rest of the code. Then compile and save this. Next, we're going to go to the content browser and we're going to search for s_level save data. You can see there's two of them. One is from player farming system and one is from player building system. So just hover over them, look at the path, you can see there it says player building system, and that's one we want. So open that up. We're going to create a new variable, and this is going to be called plant save data. And I'm going to set its type to s plant save data. Then click the option here and set it to an array. And create another new variable. This is going to be called planter save data. And we're going to change this to s_planter save data. There we go. Then create another new variable, and this one's going to be called tool save data. And we're going to change this to s_tool save data. Then save this. I recommend just playing an editor. This will compile some of our blueprints for us. It might take a moment to load, so just let it do its thing. Once your character loads in, you can just exit out. Next, we're going to go to the master plant. So we'll just search for that in the content browser and open it up. Now, the first thing we're going to do is check some of our class defaults. So open that up. We're going to make sure that these are all set correctly. You can just reset them to default and they should look like this once you're done. Then moving down, we want to change our placement collision to be placement. So we'll click that, select placement. Then for preview, we want this to be preview. So select preview. And then for light, this should be set to light, but if not, just make sure it is. You can also make sure that farming is set to true. You can see mine's ticked on here. Then scrolling down, you're going to want to set the building option menu to none if it isn't already, so just make sure that's set to none. I recommend just setting the current health to 100 and max health to 100, and you will want to untick show health bar UI if it's not already unticked. Another thing to check is just select the static mesh here. We can just scroll up, make sure it's set to none, and if we search for tag, we should have the ignore mesh tag here, and also for our arrow mesh, you can see we've got ignore mesh. If you don't have those, just add those. Next, we're going to go to the event graph, then to begin play, and we're just going to disconnect these nodes so we've got a little bit more space to work with. Drag these up here, and we're going to get the plant component, drag out from that and do bind to health updated. Connect this up to our begin play node, drag out from event and search for custom, add custom event. We'll call this health updated, and then we're going to right click and do set current health and connect this up to this event and plug health into current health like that. Then we're going to get the static mesh, drop that in here, drag out and do set collision enabled to no collision, then connect it up. Then from this node we'll run our setup collision node down here like that, then just compile. Next, we're going to go back to the event graph, and in here we're going to right click and do event damage, take damage. Then we're going to get the plant component, drag out from that and do decrease health. And we're going to get the is preview node, drop that in here. And if false, we will run the decrease health. We'll plug damage into decrease health amount like that. Then we're going to right click and do event any damage. And we're just going to copy these nodes here, copy paste. Connect it up to our event any damage, then damage into damage like that. Then compile. Then we're going to go to the functions, click the override option and search for save space build part data. Open that up. We're just going to move this node along here a bit. Grab the is preview and is attached and connect this up to false from the preview. Then we're just going to connect these nodes to our start node, and then from false for attached, connect this up to the parent node so it looks like this. Then we're going to go to functions override, search for save space extra, and we want save extra data. We're going to delete this parent node, and we're going to grab our plant component, drag out from that and do set plant save data. Connect that up to our start node. Then we're going to do get level save data, drag out from that and break. Then click the drop down. Drag out from the plant save data, search for add, and we're going to connect this up to our node here and also the plant save data. Then for our return node, plug that into the add, the index into the index, and we'll copy paste this level save data node, plug that in here. So it should look like this once you're done, then compile. Then we're going to click override again and search for load space extra, and we want load extra data. Then we can delete this parent node. We're going to drag out from save game and do select level save data. We're also going to right click and do get current level name, which plug this in between these two nodes. Plug the return value into level name. Then we'll drag out from save found and search for a branch. Drag out from level data and break it. Then we want to click the down arrow, drag out from plant save data and do is valid index. And we also want to drag out from plant save data and search for get. And then we'll connect the indexes for both those nodes to the index input, like that. Drag out from is valid and do a branch. Connect this up to true from the other branch here. Then we're going to get our plant component, drag out from that and do load plant save data. Plug that into true. Then drag out from the get node and plug that into the plant save data here. So once you're done, it should look like this. Then compile. Now to save some time, I'm just going to copy all of these nodes here, compile, save this, go to the content browser and we're going to open up the master planter, open that up. And in here, we're going to go to override, search for load space extra data, create that function, delete this parent node, paste in the nodes that we just copied, connect this up to the beginning, make sure you get the save game and plug that into the target here. Then we're going to just disconnect these two nodes and plug them into the plant save data, like that, and here. Then we're going to get the index from the beginning node, so just drag and connect to there, and then the same for the get node. Then we'll drag out from the get node and search for load, and we want load attached plants, and then connect this up to true, like that. Then we're going to go back to the override option, click that and search for save space extra data. Open that up, delete this parent node. Then we're going to do set planter save data. Connect this up to the beginning. Then we want to drag out from the level save data, break it, click the down arrow here, then drag out from planter save data and search for add. Connect this up to our set planter save data here and here. Then connect it up to our return node. Then drag out from the new level save data and just search for get level save data and compile that. Now there's a few settings in the class defaults that we want to change, so we'll open those up. Make sure that the collision in farming settings is set to light. Then scrolling down, we want to set the building option menu here to the building option menu. Scrolling down, we want to tick on show health bar UI. I'm going to set the current health to 100 and the max health to 100. If you want to change these later, you can inside the individual planters blueprints. Then scrolling down, you can see these have reset to world static. I'm just going to click the reset option here. If you don't have these, just manually set them to these settings. Then scrolling down, we should be okay with our settings now. So we're just going to compile and save this. Now we're just going to go back to the load extra data, and we're just going to copy these nodes again just to save us some time. We'll go to the content browser and we're going to search for master grow light. Open that up. And in here, go to override, search for load space extra data. Create that, delete this parent node, paste in the nodes we just copied, and again, connect this up to the beginning. Take the save game input and plug that into the target here. Then just disconnect these two nodes by holding Alt and clicking. Then we'll drag out from tool save data and plug into those. Then we'll drag these to the index at the beginning, and the same for the get node. Then we'll drag out from the get node and do a break. Then we'll drag out from enable and do set light on. And we want to set the light on variable here and plug that into true like that. Then compile. Then we're going to go to the override option again, search for the save extra data. Open that up, delete this parent node, and we're going to right click and do set tool save data. Connect that up to the beginning here. Drag out from level save data and do a break node. Drag out from tool save data and do add. Connect this up to our tool save data node here and plug this into our return node with the index. And then just drag out from new level save data and search for get level save data like that and compile. Then we're going to go to class settings, then to the interfaces option here. Again, you'll either have an add here or an add here. Just click whichever one you have. Click it, search for PBS interaction, and we want the PBS interaction interface. Just add that, then compile. Then we're going to search for allow, and we want the PBS allow interaction. And we want to tick that on, then compile. Then we're going to search for interact, and we want the PBS interact. Just double click that, open it up. Then we'll just drag out from here and do toggle light and create that node, then compile. Then again, in our class defaults, we're just going to check some of the settings here. So just scrolling down, we want to make sure the light collision channel is set to light. Then scrolling down further, we want the building option menu to be set to building option. Then we want show health bar ticked on. Again, I'm just going to set the health to 100. You can come in and change this later if you want to. Then I'm going to reset these collision channels, and scrolling down, make sure farming is ticked on. Then we should be good. So we'll just compile and save this. Then we're going to go back to the save load extra data function, and we're just going to copy these nodes again. We can actually copy all of these nodes, so we'll copy those. Go back to the content browser and search for the master sprinkler, and we'll open that up. Then we're going to go to override, search for load space extra data, delete the parent node, paste these in, connect this up to our beginning node and save game to target. Then we can actually just drag straight out from index into our isValid node and also our get node. Then we'll drag out from enabled, and we're just going to set sprinkler on like that and connect this up to true like there and compile. Then again, we're going to go to the override, search for save extra data, save space extra data, delete this parent node. Then in here, we're just going to right click and do set tool save data. connect that up here. Then we'll drag out from level save data, break it, click the down arrow, drag out from tool save data and do add. Plug that into our set tool save data like that, and plug this into our return node. Then just drag out from new level save data and do get level save data like that, then compile. Then we're going to go to class settings and we're going to search, or we're going to click the add button, search for interaction or interact, and we want the PBS interaction interface, then compile. Then we're going to search for allow and open up the allow interaction, take this on. Then we're going to search for interact and we want the PBS interact, drag this out a bit. Then we're going to drag out and do toggle sprinkler like that and compile. And again, we're going to go to class defaults and we're going to check the settings here. So just scrolling down, we can find the light collision setting needs to be set to light. So it is. Here we can set the building option menu. So we'll select building options. Then scrolling down, we want to tick on show health bar UI. Again, I'm just going to set this to 100. Then scrolling down, we want to reset these collision channels again and make sure that farming is ticked on. Once that's done, we can just compile and save this. So now we're actually ready to add our new plant build parts. So we're going to go back to the content browser. I'm going to close some of these tabs at the top because we've got quite a few open. So I'm just going to click close tabs to the right, and that might take a second just to load. Once it does, I'm going to play an editor again just to compile all of our blueprints. Once your character loads in, just exit out and then hit save all in the content browser. Now we can head over to the build part list. So just search for build part list and open that up. And I'll just drag that over from my other screen. And in here, we're going to add our new plant build part. So I'm going to click add. Now the name of the row is very important. If we go to the, if we get rid of this search, if we go to the player farming system, blueprints, you'll find these lists down here for the plants, planters and tools. So because we're adding a plant, I'm going to open up the plant list. And we need to use the exact same row name from here in the build part list. So I'm going to be adding the tomato plant. So I'm just going to double click the tomato plant row name, do Control C to copy it, and then I'm going to paste that in here. So we have the exact same name as the plant in our plant list. This is very important for any future build parts you add. You're going to want to make sure that they use the exact same name from the plant list as they do in the build part list. Then once we've done that, we can set a name. So I'm just going to paste in that name again. Tomato plant. You can add a description if you like. I'm going to skip that. The type, very important. This must be set to farming for all plants, planters, and the tools that come with the player farming system. Now the next setting we need to set is our blueprint class. So because we're creating a tomato plant, I'm going to search for tomato and select the tomato plant blueprint here. Then we need to set our resource cost. So in here, we're just going to click the add element, and you can add multiple cost items if you want, but we're just going to add the one. Then we need to set the resource name. You can put whatever you want here. It's a tomato plant, so I'm just going to put tomato space seed. I'm going to set this to 1, like that. So for our player to be able to place this tomato plant, it's going to need to have at least 1 tomato seed. Now if we head over to the we'll select the content folder here and search for player building component, and we will open that up when I find it. Here we go. Open that up, then go to class defaults, and in here we're just going to scroll down until we find the resource category. So resources, we'll click the resources here, we'll open up each one of these, and you can see we've got an entry for wood, for stone, and for iron. So now because we want our tomato plant to require tomato seeds, we're going to need to add some resources for that. So I'm just going to add a new element, open this up, and I'm going to set the resource name to the exact same as what we set in our build part list. So tomato seed space seed, and I'm going to set the amount to say 10. So our player will start with 10 tomato seed resources. Now I'm just going to compile this and save it. Keep in mind if you have a save game running, it won't have these resources, so you'll want to just make sure we delete any save game that you're using. Next, we're going to go to our actual tomato plant blueprint. So I'm just going to search for tomato, open up the tomato plant. Then we're going to go to class defaults, and we're just going to search for build part. And in here, we're going to open up this build part option here, and we just need to set this to the build part list. and we set the row name to the row name that we've just created, so tomato plant, like that, and then we'll compile and save this. Now we need to actually add our new tomato plant to our build menu. So I'm going to get rid of this search, and we're going to search, or we're going to go to the player building system, blueprints, widgets, and I'm going to open up the building menu page 3. So that should be this one here. Open that up, and you can see that we've got some empty segments, so I'm just going to be using those. I'm going to select the none 3, and we'll start by setting it to enabled. Segment type, we want to select build part, and we set the build part here to whichever build part we want. So I'm going to search for tomato, set it to tomato plant. You can see that it doesn't have a picture because if you remember in our build part list I didn't actually set an icon, but if you have an icon you can set that here and then it will update in the menu. So now we can actually select our new tomato plant from our radial menu. If you want to find out more about the radial menu, there's a separate video on that linked in the player building system documentation that you can go and take a look at. Now before we test this out, there's a few collision settings that we need to check. So I'm just going to go back to the content browser. We'll start by going to the warmth detector. So we'll just search for warmth detector, open that up, and in the class defaults, open collision, and this should be set to light. So I'm going to change that to light. Then we'll head back to the content browser and I'm going to search for the light detector, open that up. And in here, going to class defaults again, find collision, and this should be set to light, so I'm going to change that to light as well. Then we'll just compile that. Then we're going to head to the player farming component. So I'm just going to search for player farming component, and that is this one here. So we'll open that up. And in here, we're going to go to class defaults, and we're going to scroll through, find farming settings, and then the collision subsetting. And in here, we want to set the first one here to visibility, which it is, but if yours isn't, set it to that. Then placement, we want to set this to preview, so preview. Then for placement actor, we want this to be placement, so we'll set this to placement here. So now we're ready to actually test this out. We can go to the showcase, hit play. I'm going to hold down F, go to the third page and select our tomato plant. You can see it actually says tomato seeds as well, and that we have 10. We'll select that. You can see our preview's working. I can place my plant, and you can see that we've got the full menu working. If I press the water key, which is Y, you can see that the plant's water actually increases as well, and it's actually growing correctly. Now, I'm not going to be showing you how to add every single planter and tool because the process for each one is pretty much the same as what we just did with the tomato plant, but I am just going to go through and show you how to add the large planter now. So we'll start by going to the build part list. We'll add a new entry. If you remember, the row name needs to be the same as the list from the farming system. So before we set a row name, we'll just go to the player farming system. I'm just going to get rid of this search, and we'll open up the blueprints, find the planter list because we're adding a planter. We'll open this up and you can see that large planter is just called large planter. So I'm just going to copy that, go to the build part list and set that as the name, hit enter. Then I'm going to set a name here. I'm just going to set it to large planter. Again, I'm just going to leave the description as is, but you can set your own. Again, because this is a planter that's coming from the farming system, we must select farming in the type. Then going down to blueprint class, we just need to set this to our large planter like that. Then I'm going to add a resource cost. Now, because this is a planter and it's made out of wood, I'm just going to set this to use the wood resource that actually just comes with the player building system. So I'm just going to set this to wood. And I'm going to set this to say use the amount of say 10, for example. You can also, if you want, allow repairing. So I'm just going to tick that on. And again, you set the repair cost. So I'm just going to add a new cost. I'm going to set this to wood as well. And basically this amount will be used for every 10% of health that's missing from the planter. So say it's at 50% health and we set this amount to 1. That means it will cost 5 wood to fully repair the planter. So I'm just going to set that up for our large planter. Now we need to go to our large planter blueprint. So I'm just going to go to the player farming system and I'm just going to search for large planter. And we can open up that blueprint. And in here, just go to class defaults, search for build part. And here we want to set the data table on our build part setting here to build part list. Select that. And then we're going to select the row we just created. So large planter, and do that. And then as a side note, if you wanted to say give this large planter more health, you could do that in here. We could just search for health. You can set the current and max health in here. Lastly, we just need to add our planter now to the menu. So we'll just head back and open up the building menu, page 3. And in here, I'm just going to select another one of the empty segments. So we're going for none 4. I'm going to enable it, set it to build part. Then on the build part option here, I'm just going to change this to be the large planter that we just created, like that. And again, because we haven't set an icon in the build part list here, it's just going to be a white square, but if you want to, you can add to that. So now we can test this out. I'm just going to compile and we'll hit play. And you can see it's actually loading up our plant that we placed in the last time we tested. So I'm going to go to page 3, select our large planter. You can see that it actually says wood there. We're going to select our planter and you can see that we've got our planter all working correctly. We can place it, snap it to the other planters. We can also now select our plant and we can actually attach it to our planter as well. Now at the moment, when we water our plant or fertilize it, it will just be a free action. It won't actually cost us any resources. But if you do want it to cost a resource, say water or something else, we can set that up in the player farming component. So we're just going to search for, in the content folder, we'll search for player farming component. We can go and open that up. And in here, go to class defaults and scroll down until you find resources here. And in here is where we can set the cost of our watering a plant, fertilizing a plant, or curing a plant. And to add a resource cost, all we have to do is click the little plus button. Then we get an entry here, and then we can just set a resource name and the amount of that resource we want to use. So exactly like when we're setting the cost in the build part list, say for example, I wanted watering a plant to cost some wood, and just put wood, set the amount to say 5. And now whenever we water a plant, our player will have to have at least 5 wood, and when we do water the plant, it will deduct 5 wood. And you can have multiple items here, so say maybe you wanted wood or iron, so this will basically check, does the player have 5 wood or does it have 1 iron, and whichever one the player has, it will deduct when we water a plant. And that process is exactly the same for fertilizer and cure. You just add an entry and you can set the resource name and the amount. Now currently when we harvest our tomato plant, we won't actually receive any resources. So to set that up, we're just going to go into the content browser. I'm going to search for tomato again, open up our tomato plant. In here we can select the plant component, and I'm just going to open up the plant settings. Then we'll go to the vegetables. And in here you can see we've got vegetable resources. Currently it's set to tomato seed and tomato. We don't actually have a tomato resource set up in our player building component. If you remember, we only have wood, stone, iron, and tomato seed. So I'm just going to add a new resource in here. We'll set this to tomato, and I'll set the starting amount to say 5, for example. So now whenever we harvest our tomato plant, just going back to that blueprint, we'll receive between 2 and 6 tomatoes, and we'll also receive 1 to 4 tomato seeds. And of course, if you wanted to change these, you would just change the resource name. So say I wanted to get wood instead of tomatoes, I can just put wood here. And if we wanted to add additional items, we can just click the add button there, and it will, we'll have to find the vegetables again. It will add a third item that we can set resources for. And if you want to remove them, you can just hit delete and that will remove them. Now there's a couple of HUD changes that you might want to make. So we'll head back to the content browser, and I'm just going to search for the farming HUD. We'll open that up. Now I'm going to be deleting the controls panel here, the show controls background as well. I'm going to delete the crosshair and the resources panel. Then we'll compile, and it's going to give us a few errors, but that's fine. We'll go to the graph view. We're going to delete toggle controls and also delete toggle resources, then compile. Now we're just going to search for the farming character. Open that up. We're going to have some errors in here, and that's just because we've deleted those functions, so we can just delete these nodes. We're not using this character anyway, so it's not really a problem, but we'll compile just to get rid of those errors. Then we're going to go back to the content browser, and we're going to search for the build menu overlay and open that up. And in here, we're going to go to the event graph and open up the event graph here, go to begin play. And in here, we're just going to drag out from build part details and do break. And we'll click this down arrow here, and we want to drag out from blueprint class and cast to master farming actor class. I'm just going to click this arrow here to make the node a bit smaller. We'll connect this up to here, and we'll connect cast failed to set visibility. Then I'm just going to copy this set visibility node, paste that here, plug it in here, make sure that the visibility is set to hidden, and then compile and save this. So that's pretty much it for this video. Again, you will have to go through and add the other plants, planters and tools, but that process is exactly the same as what we've just been through with the tomato plant and the large planter. Something to keep in mind is when you're adding your new plants and you set the resource cost, whatever resource that you set here, you'll also need to add to the player building component like we did with the tomato seed. Otherwise, the player won't have that resource and won't be able to place your new plant. To interact with the plants, you can press the keybinds that we set in the PBS character to water, harvest, or cure plants that you're looking at. If you want to change those keybinds, you can just go to the PBS character, open that up. And in here, these are the nodes that we pasted in earlier. You can just change the keybinds for each one of these different actions. So for example, water or harvesting. So thank you very much for watching. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment below.